Hey scrappers, if you're looking to figure out what materials you should sell this week or hold this week, now is the time to do it. Our weekly report is going to give you that information, up-to-date market news, pricing. Let's get right into it and we'll talk about it inside. Hey scrappers, Tom here from the iScrap app, and today is Wednesday, February 5th, 2025, already into month number 2 of the year. And you know what? We got a lot of good things going on. I really am looking forward to going over a bunch of stuff today on the ABCs, aluminum, brass, copper, and steel. But first and foremost, I'm live right now. So if you're watching this live, please ask us questions. I would love nothing more than to answer those right on the spot. And if you don't get to this in time, don't worry. We're going to answer your questions throughout the week on any of the YouTube or social channels that we have this on. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel to learn more about, the scrap process, let us know. I've been in scrap full time for almost 18 years, but I've been around scrap since I'm 6 or 7 years old. So I've seen almost 30 years now of just scrap transitions, and it's been so interesting to see where we are right now. So let me start with steel prices, because that's been something that we have not had a lot of good news about for months and months and months. And I want to be able to talk about them because we're finally seeing some strong prices. So what are we seeing right now? In the last 2 or 3 weeks, we saw prices jump by about $15 to $30 per ton. All right, that's great. You can see some of the charts. You can see some of these arrows pointing green. We're happy to see that because we really haven't seen strong prices in a long time. But here's the good news. It's not just that we saw that $15 to $30 jump. It's that we're going to be seeing major jumps coming to the markets. And I'll put a short-term hold on your steel if you're able to. If you were thinking about going and cashing in, you might want to hold for a month, but it's a short-term one. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, hold, for a long time. From what I can see, we're going to be seeing a really big jump in the markets. And I'll just give you a quick snippet from one of the articles that I read. Then I'll tell you about some conversations I had in person with some different people. The overall decline in global steel production, coupled with regional supply shifts, could drive market volatility from oilprice.net. And this also commented, India's production growth positions it as a key player in global steel supply. Why am I talking about these things, and how are they going to affect the scrap markets? We're now 2+ weeks into the new administration, and what we've been able to see are major changes in attitude, in communication, and into potential growth with this new administration, with the Trump administration. That has spurred people to invest more money in the United States infrastructure. That could be building more factories. That could be keeping money here. That could be repatriating money. That could be data centers. That could be new market centers coming online or being built, like campuses like Meta just announcing that they were going to move their head campus to Texas. These are going to be events that are going to take place, and I'm going to look for the next 2 years as really growth opportunity years after essentially 4 years of kind of stagnant growth when it came to steel side of things, oil and gas production. Sure, they were increasing in the United States, but not to the level, to the extent that they would be. But now we're starting to see a lot of positivity. I don't really care who you voted for. What I'm seeing on a business side of things are companies investing money in the United States, and they need steel to be able to do it. Because we saw such short prices for such a long time in 2024, now we're starting to see that rubber band snap itself back. That pendulum is starting to tilt closer, and we may start to see these prices really going for quite a while. I know that light iron prices are really going to have a nice jump, but some of your heavier grades of steel, your HMSs, your rotors, are going to be even better than some of the prices that you're going to be seeing on light iron, because those heavier grades, people really, really want them. These suppliers, these different steel mills don't have what they need. and they can start to predict forward, and they're seeing a problem. So if they're seeing a lack of supply, they're going to raise their prices to get supply in, and that's what we're starting to see. So good news on that. And then, we kind of touched briefly on fuel. Well, fuel prices are going to start to temper themselves. We saw Trump the other day talking to Saudi Arabia saying, hey, we got to lower these prices, and they want to be able to lower them. I just don't think that we're going to start to see prices going from like $75 a barrel to like $55, but I could see by the end of this year having those numbers in the mid to high 60s. But if you think about that, that's like a 7 to 10% decrease in pricing. So if you're paying $3 at the gallon today for regular, you could be down to 60, right, by the end of this year. But then diesel prices are affected the same way. So if you have a $4 diesel number, 7% reduction, you might start to see 350, 370 out there. That's going to help a lot of the markets as well. So hopefully we'll continue to see those things. We got questions?
Yep.
Oh, bring them. Let's do it. What do we got?
First one, old satellite dishes.
Question, old satellite dishes. Should we micro scrap them or don't mess with them? It's a great question. Trusting in God first. My opinion is they're steel, right? You have a wire on them that might be worth something, but sometimes it's an optical cord and it's just a steel core and it's coated in copper, kind of those old school wires. So other than that, I don't see a lot of value in scrapping these further. Great question though. Another question. Simon says, the e-scrapper, hey Tom, any plans to import some higher value e-waste scrap? Am I planning to import from out of the country material to my yard? No, I don't plan on doing that.
People.
If other countries are doing it,
like if our country's going to.
So let's talk about this. I was going to touch briefly on this in a little while when it comes to tariffs. I do think that some countries will be importing some material into the United States. I'm personally not doing that. That's not my lane, so I stay out of it. I talked to a few people, and here's what they talked about, Simon. You're talking e-scrapping, right? So we'll talk gold. Gold prices today hit an all-time record high for the third time in the last week. So people are seeing the tariff talks as problem areas, and people are investing in more stable things like gold because it's just traditionally been that way. Now, if gold prices remain at these levels, you may start to see more material coming into the country. But what you have to think about is what's going to happen to tariffs when it comes to metals being imported. Trump talked the other day about slapping tariffs on China, which he did, 10% across the board. But he also talked about larger tariffs. And for the first time that I could remember, I heard him directly say, even from his first administration, the beginning of the second, that they were going to be putting tariffs potentially on aluminum, which they've talked about, steel, which they've talked about, and for the first time, copper. They talked about putting tariffs on copper. And if that starts to happen, how are we going to see things? Well, the export markets aren't going to be affected, right? But imports are going to be affected on new copper production, new items that had copper in them. But that may start to have more people keeping copper and gold bearing items in the United States for processing, which could increase our recycling loop inside of the country. But to go back to the original question, I'm not importing. Others may start doing it. Generally, when prices go up, a lot of people come out of the woodwork. So it won't surprise me to start to hear about some stories being more negative. You don't normally hear about positive business stories. You hear about problem areas when it comes to scrap, but we'll update you around that. Another question. Junkman Joe, where do you see the car market going in catalytic converters? Great question. And by your profile picture, I already like it. I see junk car prices going up along those same guidelines that I said a few minutes ago of 30 to 50 bucks per ton. I see that happening by the end of this month and maybe by March. When rumors come out there, that's because they're generally meant to be out there on purpose. They don't just get spread. So a 30 to 50 upgrade, I heard from 3 people in 2 days, outside of people that I then reached out to who confirmed the same thing. So And I heard it that I talked to people that were working in Virginia, Louisiana, Texas, and New York. So not even like the same areas, like a little different areas, all heard the same things. So that's really good. Catalytic converters. Well, we can talk about catalytic converters right now because we have seen some of the higher prices for platinum and palladium than we've seen in a long time. I believe that both of those markets are over $1,000 per ounce for the first time in a while. So that's great. I see positives coming on catalytic converters, but I still think that we need to wait. We have a lot of questions, right? What's going to happen with the Ukrainian conflict? Because Russia has such a major impact on the platinum, palladium, and the rhodium markets. What's going to happen there? So if we start to hear news, and I don't want to like make predictions, right? But if we start to hear that that war is coming to a close, but that Russia is going to be tied off to the world markets for starting the war, we may start to see some of these prices going up. But if they say that the war is ending and that Russia wants to be more diplomatically involved in a positive way, we may see prices go down. So I don't know how to predict it, but our rcats.com has seen some of the highest prices, and we've been seeing more quotes than we have in a long time. And that's just because, you know, prices are going up. So hopefully that sheds a little light. Any more pending questions? No? So other markets. Great questions. Keep them coming. I'm live February 5th right now, so keep them coming. Copper prices are up. Aluminum prices are up. And I'm just going to read this real quick. Copper and aluminum are rising while global trade policies and supply shifts could shake up the market, with tariffs being delayed on Mexico and Canada, and China having tariffs placed on them, along with the Chinese now placing tariffs on their own products and restricting things like, tungsten, moly, bismuth, graphite are going to start to be constricted from the Chinese markets coming over here. We're going to start to see prices fluctuating a little bit, but what I have seen is copper prices up for like the fourth day in a row, right? Even after Monday, we saw prices drop. Then we saw them quickly increase. Since Monday, they bottomed out trading at 423, and right now they're at 437. So 2 days, less than 2 days, we saw a 14-cent flip around. But even to compare to January, we're up by 21 cents month over month. So that's a really good number. I think the average was like 413 for January, and here we are around 436, 437 today. I do see copper prices continuing to increase, with the possibility of $5 per pound being hit this year on a consistent level. And yes, I can't believe that I said that after last May, seeing those prices jump so quickly. I didn't think I would say this soon, but copper has shown extreme resiliency. We thought markets were going to be in the 350 range, and they're closer to 450. We're looking at items like steel and aluminum, which are going to be intertwined in products or manufacturing, just like copper is, both increasing in value. We see tariffs causing problems when it comes to international shipping for people to bring stuff into this country. It's going to cost them more money because of the tariffs. So they're going to have to wait a little while for any of those things to take place. We're just going to kind of be in a wait and see mode, but we may continue to see a lot of these prices increasing throughout 2025. Of course, this is outside of large looming things. I just don't see that happening anytime soon. Another question.
Yeah, we have a few questions.
Oh, great. Let's do it. David, should I sell aluminum today? Every day is a good day to sell scrap, David. I still see aluminum prices having more of an increase. In fact, this is an article I read from Reuters. I'm going to quote here. Analysts predict aluminum will outperform other base metals in 2025 due to a supply shortfall, with prices expected to rise 6.3% this year. So, prices could be going up. What's 6% on 60 cents a pound for like sheet aluminum? Well, that's 6 cents. So are you going to wait for a nickel? I don't know. I mean, prices are strong, David. If you have 1,000 pounds of aluminum or more, call your scrapyard, negotiate your price up 3 to 5 cents. If they give you 3 cents, take it, run with it, cash out. Another question. Rodrigo, Texas copper ground rods, best way to scrap them. First and foremost, assuming you are allowed to be scrapping them, right? I would cut them in half because many rods are coated copper on steel. So use that handy magnet. And if you don't have one, we have them for sale through our store, I believe. So you could always do that. Lightning rods, make sure you're allowed to take them. Sometimes they could be utility owned, but if they're all copper, they should go for like a #1 tubing price. Another question. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to our videos, please subscribe now so you can always get these updates. Bill says, how is the outlook for stainless? Wah, wah. Stainless markets are just so poor, Bill. I'm pulling up nickel prices real quick just so I can see kind of where these markets are at right now. Nickel prices, I'm looking at a market trading around, another ad hitting my screen. Nickel is at 15,876 a ton. When I look at that on a few month basis, we're now seeing prices going back to the levels that they were at in early December. They did drop down in early January, but when I'm looking at these, we hit a high, I don't know, in 2017 of 21,000 a ton. Excuse me, in May of 24, it was May 17th, 2024, nickel prices were about 45% higher than they are today. So I have had a hold on stainless steel for a long time. I recently converted that to sell. I don't, you're not holding out for a lot of money, 2-3 cents a pound. I don't see nickel prices having a really quick uptick, which of course then affects stainless. So, plus you got multiple mining operations bringing big nickel operations into fruition and into production in 2025. So that's going to hurt prices. Any questions? We're good right now. Other markets, people are looking at the tariffs. That's been really the biggest piece of news that's coming out continually. What's going on with the tariffs? How are they going to affect things? How are my scrap prices going to be? Listen, if I knew that answer, I told you this, I'd be on my island right now. The tariffs are a negotiating tool that should help the United States production and pricing levels. But because metals are an international commodity, how do you trade that, right? If you can't ship stuff out, but you can bring stuff in, and it costs, or you can ship stuff out, and it costs more to bring stuff in, how's that going to affect prices? I don't know, but I don't know what this year is going to look like. But continue, report the prices that you do get, put them out there. One more thing that I'll talk about we didn't touch on, and that was tungsten prices. The Chinese were talking about decreasing the level of tungsten that they would export. And the article and the news piece I heard was tungsten and graphite. There are smaller ones that most scrappers aren't going to deal with, so I won't touch on those metals. And graphite really is not a metal, but graphite's used in semiconductor chips, in electronics. The Chinese have a very strong grip on that, and they have a strong grip on the tungsten markets. David says plenty of graphite in Alabama. Mine has already started. So those are the stories that you want to be able to hear. David, thank you so much for sharing. Those stories are ones you want to hear about more domestic production in the U.S. That's going to help our price stability here in the country long term. And I even heard them floating around something where they may change global commodities, where there's like a US-based commodity index and then a global-based one. Like right now, it's currently at a London Metal Exchange or some other areas. But we may start to see some really high prices in the coming years when it comes to some of these metals, and we'll be along for the ride. But I do expect tungsten to go up. So if you ever come across carbide, tungsten-based alloys, rrcarbide.com is quoting these, giving you free shipping, boxes, all types of stuff. So whether you're dealing with carbide, Monel, Hastelloys, or someone, I'd love to give you a referral fee. So refer us to someone else, and if they give us business, we'll be ready to thank you for that opportunity. But overall, scrappers, I see good things happening in the markets. don't look short-sighted, right? That's a problem. Don't look day to day to day to day. You can post your prices. You can follow pricing, right? But it's like stocks. You don't buy a stock today to sell tomorrow. You buy it today to sell it years down the road, most likely. And that's one of the approaches you want to take when looking at the metals markets. You can continue to move some metals right now. I think we're going to have a strong market this year, and hopefully we continue to see that increasing, but a lot of question marks we'll continue to answer. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Any questions, you can become a member and get many of our videos before other people. So check those things out. I'm here every week. I'd love to answer your questions, and I look forward to seeing some good ones next week. Today is Wednesday, February 5th, 2025. My name is Tom, and I'm from the iScrap app. Until next week, I'll scrap.